Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this investor webinar for Axel REE Limited. My name is Gabby. I assist Axel with investor relations, and I'm joined this morning by Axel's new Managing Director, Dr Mpofu. Before I hand to Patience for the formal presentation, just a couple of housekeeping matters. A reminder that this webinar is being recorded, and also that there'll be the opportunity to ask Patience questions at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to ask Patience a question, please do so via the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. All right, I'll now hand over to Patience for the presentation. Thank you, Patience.
Thanks, Gabby, for this introduction. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this webinar. Before I go into the presentation, I'd like to briefly just introduce myself, a little bit about myself, why I joined Axel. So firstly, I believe Axel is at the pivotal time in our life when you think about critical minerals that are required for the energy transition, that are required for our technology, that are required for every single AI data center. Axel is right at that point. Rare earth elements are required for this energy transition and the technology. And I believe joining Axel at this point in time is very critical, not just for my career, but also to contribute to the supply of all these rare earth elements. The second point is Axel has a very good resource in Brazil. Brazil is very mining friendly. It's got a lot of mining companies, particularly in the Minas Gerais, and most of these mining companies are actually mining rare earth elements. So what a perfect time for me to join, particularly in a country that is friendly to investors. The third part, which is the most important part, and I'm going to talk deeply about it, is the in-situ recovery. For me, that is close to my heart, and I will tell you why. It is because my PhD was actually in clay minerals, and I have a strong understanding of clay minerals. And when I looked at Axel at this point that they have discovered the rare earth elements, and they have already demonstrated at a lab scale that they can actually be able to extract the rare earth, I thought this is a perfect opportunity for me to make a difference, to create shareholder value, and ensure we take the project from exploration to development to production of these key critical minerals. The in-situ recovery is not your normal mining. It has several advantages, from low capital to low OPEX, but most importantly, you produce these critical minerals sustainably because it has a very good low environmental impact. And I will share with you the entire in-situ recovery and how it is different from the normal mining that we know. Without further ado, we can start the presentation. Gabby, the next slide. So just on key strategic questions that I thought I would like to address these questions during the presentation. Why should you invest in Axel right now? And I'm sure a lot of people are asking themselves. I will take you through your why. Why does Axel matter in the global rare earth supply chain? What are the key trends and drivers of global supply and demand? The third point is, why is Axel uniquely positioned to succeed? How does the in-situ recovery create a competitive advantage? And I think this is very important. And I will take you through how this creates a competitive advantage, not just for the company, but I believe for shareholders. How will Axel systematically execute and de-risk the project? And this is about how we can actually execute as a leadership and how will value be created for shareholders. Next slide. So just giving you a summary of the investment rationale, I thought I should put this slide up front. Firstly, as I mentioned, AXL is positioned within the rapidly growing non-Chinese rare earth supply chain with a growing demand. I mean, China obviously is a dominant supplier of rare earth, but I will share with you and show you that Brazil is actually emerging with huge reserves and resources going into the future. The second point is large-scale ionic clay resource with an expansion of potential heavy rare earth elements. As you know, there are 17 rare earth elements, but the ones that give you the economic value, they're about just 4. What makes us different is because we actually have more of the heavy ones, which is the terbium and the dysprosium. Those two are in huge deficit. And with us, that gives us the competitive advantage. In addition, we have a gallium asset, which I'll share with you. The third part is we are one of Australia's emerging first in-situ recovery ionic adsorption clay rare earth developers in the Minas Gerais in Brazil, outside of Asia. As I mentioned, it's China, it's Malaysia, and there's only one which is also in Brazil. So we are the first in the Minas Gerais area. The third point is in-situ is low cost. It's a low-cost development strategy. And we will show you how we are progressing through clearly defined technical milestones to de-risk the project. The fourth point is it is known for its low capital requirements versus your conventional processing methods. I already mentioned low environmental impact. You do not need to actually dig underground. You don't need an open pit. And therefore, the footprint, you don't need huge tailings. That's a big positive. And I've already mentioned Brazil is stable. It's a very friendly mining jurisdiction. There are many mining companies, especially where we are in the Minas Gerais, that are already operating there, particularly also with the rare earth elements. And I'll show you our clear roadmap, which will be focused on de-risking the project, discipline, execution, and long-term value. Next slide. So just as a broader context, how does the magnetic rare earth demand look like? This is a strategic opportunity for Axel. On the left-hand side, I have the demand of specifically the magnet rare earth in kilotons, right? As I mentioned, the magnet ones are basically those 4 that drive the economic value. You can see that it will double by 2040. So the demand is very strong. But what's driving that demand? I'll just take you through the key drivers, which I've already mentioned. The electric vehicles, they need rare earth elements. Wind energy, it needs rare earth elements. There are all these magnets that are required for all these technologies. From industrial motors and automation, they need those magnets. When you think about consumer electronics that we use, from AI hardware to data centers, we need the rare earth elements. And last but not least, defense and aerospace. It all needs the rare earth elements. So that's what is driving the demand for magnetic rare earth elements. And what a beauty, because Axel is rightly aligned with that global demand, the growing global demand, and we are entering at the right time. Next slide, please. The second part here, this slide is essentially just to demonstrate and show you how the landscape is changing, the competitive landscape is changing. China currently dominates the critical minerals value chain for rare earth elements, from upstream to midstream to downstream. On the right-hand side, I'm showing the reserves, 49%. That's China. But if you look at Brazil, Brazil is the second largest, and I'm talking just reserves in million tons, real, right? The resources, we don't have much data on that, but this was pulled out from one of the well-known sources. Brazil holds about 23% of the reserves. But what's interesting on the left-hand side, if you look at the supply mine production in 2025, Brazil is less than 1%. And this slide shows you that there's a huge potential going into the future for Brazil to be one of the largest producers of rare earth elements. And that creates a strategic opportunity that AXL is targeting. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to talk about the competitive advantage. So why AXL? Firstly, it's a large resource that is located in the stable mining jurisdiction of Brazil. Why Brazil? Firstly, it hosts one of the largest rare earth resource bases, as I've already shown you, providing long-term development potential. And it is posed to be the key suppliers as government are seeking a critical mineral beyond just China. As I've already mentioned, we need to diversify the supply. And I think Brazil is so underdeveloped, and going into the future, it will be the second largest producer of rare earth elements. And this is a perfect time for AXL. I would like to show you where our operations are situated. On the left-hand side, I've got a map that's showing two of our main projects, the Caladão and the Caldas. This is where we've done all our exploration work. And currently we're focusing on the Caladão with regards the in-situ that we're currently doing. And I will share more with you. The Caldas contains the gallium. And I will talk more about the gallium opportunities. Next slide. So let's talk about the resource. How much are we talking about? So if you look at our resource currently on the left-hand side, which is showing the Woolrich, it's called the Tiger Creek, it's called the Marambia, we have approximately 572 million tons at a head grade of 1,506 ppm trio. But remember, the trio contains all the 17 rare earth elements. And what we are interested mostly is just those 4. And I'll show you how our grade is so high and we're able to get to extract all the embryo from this 1,500 ppm. In terms of content trio, we've got about 861. And on the right-hand side, you look at the gallium, that's 439 million tons. And all this, what it's showing you is that we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of the size of the resource that we have. And where are we currently with regard our resource drilling? Currently working towards getting to indicated. The work is progressing and we'll communicate as we go forward. But the work is happening right now. And the Woolrich is the one that we have selected. And that's the one which is kind of like square there in the middle in area B. That's the one we'll be using for our in-situ recovery development work. Next slide, please. I've spoken about the gallium upside. So gallium is actually a strategic metal. If you look at all the different countries, especially in the Western world, they have classified gallium as a strategic and a critical mineral. And why is that? It is because you cannot find a resource with gallium. We are the first to have gallium resource. Where do you normally get gallium? It's mostly produced by China, but you also find it as a byproduct from alumina, bauxite, so zinc. That's how you get your gallium. But we have a resource here, and it is not a magnet. It's actually a semiconductor, and it's required particularly in advanced technologies and in defense. And many countries are looking for gallium. This is a big upside for AXL. That offers a huge competitive advantage for us. Next slide. Let's talk about the in-situ recovery. I will spend a bit of time on this slide and the next one. Most people don't understand in-situ recovery, but I will tell you that China has been using in-situ recovery for ion adsorption clays to recover all the rare earth elements, right? and Malaysia has been using the in-situ recovery. And there's another one company, BCM, in Brazil, which is using in-situ recovery. And we are using in-situ recovery. Not every ion adsorption rare earth can use in-situ. For example, some of the competitors like Viridas, like Metrioc, they cannot use in-situ. And why is that? Firstly, you need to have a proper mineralogy. We have clays. It has to be permeable. And our clay is permeable. We've already demonstrated that it is amenable to in-situ recovery. So on the left-hand side, this is just a schematic diagram that shows you don't have a mine. All you have, you keep everything as is. No excavation. What you do is you inject a reagent, which is magnesium sulfate. And what the magnesium sulfate does is you inject it and it goes into the clays because you have a clay structure. Think of it as a tree that's holding some fruits. These fruits are rare earth. They can easily just fall. But others which have ion adsorption, but they're not amenable to in situ, it is because the rare earth are tightly tied in the structure. It's a hard rock. You cannot actually just recover by adding in a reagent. So this makes AXL very, very attractive because you don't need any open pit. You don't need huge capital. Your operating cost is low. All you need is essentially your processing where you collect your pregnant liquor solution and then you precipitate to remove impurities and then you then add your magnesium bicarbonate if you are looking for an MREC. That's all that you need. Simple process. Let's move to the next slide so that I can explain, and this will show you the major differences between your conventional rare earth mining versus your in situ, which AXL is using. And it will help you to understand also our development path. So on the top side, you've got your normal conventional. You have your hard rock, and it may be a monazite, which is a hard rock for rare earth. You have to mine it. You have to crush, you have to mill, you have to do gravity separation, froth flotation, magnetic separation. You have to dry, leach, purify to get your final MREC product. How many steps are there? In all these steps, you need capital, you need trucks, you need processing plants. There's a lot of capital that is required. There's a lot of high OPEX. But most importantly, you have all these waste streams of waste rock, overburden, tailings dam, dust, noise, emission, long-term rehabilitation liabilities. All these translate to low value, particularly if you are a very small company. But when you look at AXL with the in-situ recovery, as I mentioned before, you do your in-situ leaching. What are your OPEX? Magnesium sulfate. That is the one that circulates in your well field. Then you get your solution, pregnant liquor solution. You take it to the surface. You then have your very simple, tank that you're able to remove your impurities, and then you precipitate, and then you add your magnesium bicarbonate. You get then your MREC. 4 simple step process. No huge capital, no huge OPEX, minimal surface disturbance, a very simple process. And I think most importantly, your footprint is very low. That is the attractive part of the in-situ recovery versus your conventional. Next slide, please. I've explained the costs that are associated with your normal mining versus your in-situ. A cost curve will help you to show you your potential in terms of your margins, but in terms of your net cash cost. Because if the price collapses, who is likely to move? Those who are in the 4th quartile, they will not survive when the prices collapse. But when you have in situ, because you're a low cost quartile producer, you are likely to survive. And currently, This is a diagram that is just illustrative, but behind those numbers, particularly if you look at the first quarter, it's about 10. There is a recent BFS that was released by one company that has done the In-situ. They're about 8. And the China ionic clays, they're about 10, 11, $12 per ton of Rio. So this slide is very important because when people ask, what happens when the price, we can be able to navigate the different life cycles of prices, of volatility, of rare earth pricing. Next slide, please. Still on the competitive advantage, this slide talks to mining responsibly. And this is about ESG, because this is a technological, innovative process. We are able to mine responsibly, competitively, by the fact that we reduce the surface disturbance. We don't have any open pit mining. We have no crushing, no milling, and of course, low capex. So from an environmental point of view, this is a very good process because it helps you to still keep your entire land intact. Because when you mine and you take your pregnant liquor solution, you have to run through the water and ensure your groundwater is not impacted in any case anyway. And then you are able to then get your product. So this is very important. On the left-hand side, I have a table that's showing your in-situ versus open pit mining, and of course the heap leaching that other companies use. So when it comes to capital intensity, it's low. Open pit, as I showed, is very high. Heap leach, not as high. Environmental impact, it's minimal. Open pit, large. Heap leach, it's about moderate. The other thing is the first time to production. It's very fast because your lead time is very low compared to open pit, and heap leach is just moderate. Scalability, you can actually have it in modular form. Open pit, you have a fixed infrastructure. What do you do when you finish your mining after 20 years? And the heap leach, you have fixed infrastructure. Has it been proven at scale? Yes. Southeast Asia since the 1990s. And of course, the others, they've been proven before. In terms of licensing, it's low because it is simplified. We're also in the Minas Gerais, which helps us, particularly with the Caladão project, because there are already other mining companies that are there. Unlike the open pit mining and of course the heap leach, as we know about tailings and so forth, it's more materially risk with the tailings dam. Next slide, please. So what is our in-situ development strategy and roadmap? So the company is at pivotal technical validation stage with column testing at this point in time. And I will take you through our recent results that we announced about our column test results. So we have done our MRE. We've delivered 572 million tons at 1,500 ppm. We've been able to demonstrate that we can actually extract those rare earth, the embryo. We've done the metallurgical, we've done the diagnostic test work, we've completed that, and we've moved into the third phase, which is the column testing, and the results are very strong. I will show you how important these results are with regards to going into the field trial test work that we'll be doing. After the field test, we obviously will potentially be having our resource upgrade by then, and then we have our field trial pathway, and we'll have our scoping study. So all these will be parallel work that will be happening, but the most important is the field trial before we get to anywhere else. And of course, we have our environmental permitting that runs parallel, and we'll be updating you on where we are. This work is ongoing at this point in time. So in short, we are at a very pivotal technical validation stage with our column test results, which supports now our next phase, very, very critical. And we have already shown very strong results, and we will be moving towards our scoping study, which is essentially our economic model. Next slide. We announced our column testing results, and this is just a summary of those testing results. And I will show you why these results are very, very important. So we've moved from just diagnostic in the lab to column testing, simulating what an in-situ recovery plant is going to look like, validating that we can actually get our embryos from that resource, which now strengthens our technical foundation for scaling our low reagent rare earth development pathway with exceptionally low impurities. We've already confirmed the in-situ proof of concept. We were able to recover 560 ppm soluble trio. That's very, very important. And we have magnetic rich 39% of our embryo. This is the most important because your embryo is the one that has all your magnetic rare earth elements, right? Which includes our high rare earth elements. We have a clear step now. We'll be moving to field scale in situ validation. Most importantly, and this is worth noting, the significance of the impurities. On the left-hand side, our impurities are very, very low, which are acceptable from uranium, your thorium, your iron, your aluminium. This de-risks downstream processing. If you are to negotiate with an off-taker, those are some of the things that they look for. So this is very important for us. Now, what is the significance of the column testing results? Firstly, as I mentioned, we are moving into field trial. So these will inform our design parameters. It will design our reagent selection, which we've already selected, the magnesium sulfate. But obviously, in terms of optimization, we have done it at pH 4. We may potentially look at, our concentration. Currently, our results, I think it's at 0.25 molar. We may look at optimizing that, including our washing cycles. It will also inform the recovery assumptions that we're going to use for our economic study. So all this is super important for our next phase, which is essentially our field test. Next slide. So this just shows you the Woolrich, as I mentioned, is the one that we have selected. We've selected this particular part. So we'll be commencing our targeted well field in this deposit to do our field trials. And we've already shown 560 ppm soluble trio through our in-situ. And we will be able to then update you on the progress on our field trials. Next slide. Just showing you again our Woolrich deposit, the area that will be working on the field trials, where we'll have the potential 12 well fields, which we have already identified. So everything is just going according to our plan. Next slide. So what is our development pathway? The near-term catalyst. Firstly, we are going to continue with our column test results. We will be producing our first MREC, where we take our pregnant liquor solution. We obviously precipitate it with the bicarbonate and get an MREC, and we can be able to say what is that standard of the MREC? How does it look like? Does it meet, the minimum requirements for off-takers, right? The second part, obviously, the resource upgrade, drilling results, improving our confidence with the infill drilling, getting to resource upgrade, expanding our mineral resource estimate. Our in-situ field trial design finalization, obviously all the operational parameters, all the planning, we'll be working together with all the consultants that are going to be doing all the work, the contractors, and our internal team. And of course, the environmental and permitting progress, very important. We'll be doing all our environmental baseline studies. The work is already starting right now with a consulting firm, and we will be updating on where we are. It's important for us to start now because, as we know, when we start all our hydrogeological studies, we have to be doing all the baseline studies in terms of the impact on our groundwater, everything that's required. And this, we take it very seriously, our ESG. And then, of course, the field trial will start and we'll be validating on the ground. Now we're moving from column to on the ground. This is the most critical de-risking part of the project. And then, of course, we then will be moving towards our scoping study. We're already starting to work as we get all the results from the work that we're currently doing. Next slide. This is an important slide because what it's showing you is the competitive landscape. The top is the Parasio. This blue one is the Woolrich, and I would like you to pay attention to the blue and the green. So we like to compare ourselves to Garrick, which is the Malaysian Southern Alliance Garrick mine. If you look at the resource, our Woolrich is about 128, because remember the 578 is for the Woolrich and the entire, area, the area A and area B. But if you look at just the Woolrich, it's about 128 million tons. Garrick is about 120 million tons. We don't have the capital estimate, but we can infer, but we will be getting that information as we do all our work. What is the soluble trio? We've already shown it's 560 from the head grade of 1,500. Look at Garrick, it's about 486, which is much lower than us. But the most important part of this is how much of that trio is your embryo, because your embryo drives 70 to 8, in fact, 90% of your economics, because that's the magnetic rare earth. That's 39%. Look at Garrick, 30%, which demonstrates that we have a much higher grade than Garrick. So this just shows you how competitive we are, and there is value in our deposit. So Southern Alliance just completed an acquisition of 40% equity in Garrick, and now Garrick is valued as 205 million. So that just shows you 205 valuation achieved after de-risking via a 20 million in-situ recovery development. That's a 10-time multiple. And Malaysia is the first profitable ionic clay in-situ. So if you want to infer, you can infer from the Garrick mine, very similar. Similar tonnage, higher grade profile, comparable ionic clay geology and metallurgy, soluble, strong sellable trio embryo composition. And the graph at the bottom shows you exactly where we are with our assets in terms of the high grade embryo. Embryo is the key. That is your grade, because that's what you want. That's what drives your economic model. 41% for Parasio and 39% for Woolrich, and Garrick is 30%. This is where value will be created. Next slide, please. So in summary, what is our investment rationale? We are positioned within the rapidly growing non-Chinese rare earth supply. As I've already mentioned, Brazil is growing. We've shown the reserves, 24%, from currently less than 1% in terms of production. So watch in the next 10 years where the rare earth element is going to come from. But most importantly, ionic clay resource. AXL has an ionic clay resource. We are amenable to in-situ recovery. And we have high, heavy rare earth, which is in huge supply deficit. And we have gallium, which is in huge supply deficit due to export ban from China. Gallium is a big upside. We are one of Australia's emerging in-situ ion adsorption clay rare earth developers in the Minas Gerais, in Brazil, outside of Asia. We are a low-cost in-situ recovery development strategy. We have a low cost, and we're progressing through defined technical milestones, which is going to be very disciplined, making sure we deliver on our promises. The in-situ, as I've already shown you, high capital efficiency versus conventional mining. It's known for low environmental impact. Brazil is stable. It's a friendly mining jurisdiction. And we have a clear roadmap, which is focused on disciplined, de-risking the project to technical validation. We're already upgrading our MRE. It is on track. We should be getting to indicated, and we have a proven metallurgical recoveries. We'll be working on our in-situ recovery program, which is on track. Our environmental and permitting is on track. What's there not to like about AXL? Thank you. This is our leadership. We have a fantastic, great leadership with all the experiences that we need from capital markets, from understanding geotechnical, all the stuff that we need for us to de-risk the project. We have it, the leadership to deliver on our promises and create shareholder value. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patience. Great presentation. Just to start off with, just for investors that might not have seen the announcement on your appointment, can you give us an overview of your background and what expertise you bring to the company?
Thank you, Gabby. So I have spent 25 years in the mining sector. I was a student that was sponsored by Australia. Australia is my home, and I studied at University of South Australia, where I did my PhD in mineral processing. So I'm a metallurgist. Now, I have experience across different commodities, be it is PGMs, copper, nickel, gold, rare earth, cobalt, you name it. I have spent those 25 years working in various global mining companies. One of the mining companies is South32. I was VP Corporate Affairs and Sustainability. Anglo American spent about 10 years in metallurgy, in strategy, in business development, in M&A. Stillwater Sibanye, M&A, commercial. And then just recently, I am still a non-executive director for Orion Minerals. So when you talk about capital markets, I've got that experience having worked for Orion. But most importantly, the past 6 years, I've been working with different governments. I've been working with different companies, helping them with their strategies, but also the understanding of critical minerals and also investments across the EU. I've worked in Zambia with the EU on investment opportunities in Zambia with the EU. And we have completed some of the work for other projects on investment opportunities across the globe. So my entire experience combines what AXL needs at this point in time. When you talk about metallurgy, which is the biggest part of de-risking, we already have an asset. We already know we have 1,500 on average of our head grade. We are now showing that we can actually extract the ionic, the rare earth ionic clay, the rare earth elements. Now the question is, can we economically then extract and produce this rare earth? And I believe we can. And with my skills, together with the team that we have in Brazil, together with the leadership, we should be able to de-risk the project and move across and create shareholder value in the next couple of years. And that's essentially in a nutshell. And why did I join AXL? I think I've already mentioned, to build something strategically important. What a better way to be with AXL? The world is looking for new, secure sources of critical minerals, rare earth. It's listed in about 10 critical minerals lists across the globe. So, and I'm looking forward to executing with discipline and de-risking the project, building the right partnerships with the government, with the communities, and creating long-term value.
Excellent. Thank you, Patience. So moving on to Woolrich. So why is that the right first field trial area for you?
So I think that's an important question. I think we have done quite a lot of work on the Woolrich. I think firstly, if you look at the map where the Woolrich is, it's actually in the Minas Gerais. Minas, it hosts all these different companies, the Viridas, the Meteoric, all in the south of the country. And it makes sense for us to select the Caladão, not in the south, in the north, sorry, where the Minas is. And that's important for us because the Woolrich, we've done quite a lot of work there. It just makes sense for us to select where we have done most of the work because then you don't take more time. You can use that then to replicate across all your different assets.
Okay. Okay, excellent. And what does the upcoming field trial need to prove or demonstrate?
So as I mentioned, it's when you have on lab scale, you start with your diagnostics. So your diagnostics, it's like, can I be able to get the rare earth through the in situ? That's the first part on the lab, on the bench. You move to the next stage, which is essentially your column testing. You are emulating what happens in the ground. You are not on the ground. Now, when you move to the next phase, which is the field test, you are doing it on the ground. This is where all the dynamics, the permeabilities, the hydrogeology, all the different aspects happen on the ground. That is the most important part of the project because you're doing it on the ground. And once you're able to demonstrate that you're able to recover what you recovered on the column test, that's a big plus. So that's why it's very important. It's the biggest part of de-risking the project.
Okay, thanks, Patience. And we've got another question. When can we expect the scoping study? I think that might be the field trials, but when will they be released?
So look, we have to do work. There's no shortcut in this. We have to do all our hydrogeology studies. We have to do all our baseline studies for our environmental. We have to do all our permeability studies for us to be able to get an understanding of some of the assumptions. Because what you don't want is do a scoping study that is based on assumptions that are not supported by the work that you're doing. And that's the reason why we want to make sure when we do our scoping study, we have a very good understanding of what actually happens on the ground when we do all the permeability, the flow rates. That's important. So I will not give a specific date, but we will give you an update as and when we'll be getting the scoping study done once we have all the information on the field tests.
Okay, thank you. Patience, in the investor deck, you talked about moving from lab validation to field scale validation. Why is that such an important transition?
I think as I mentioned again, you are doing it on the lab, and then when you're now doing it on the ground, that's very dynamic. There's so much that's happening on the ground. That's a dynamic process versus when you're on the lab. When you do it on the ground, there are all these dynamics, but you're also able to extract more data from environmental impact, your groundwater. You are able to monitor, which is very, very important because you need to extract data that you're going to use as your baseline. You need to extract data that's going to give you your design criteria. You need that data that's going to give you your assumptions for when you build your well field.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on to gallium, how should investors think about the gallium opportunity? And is it economic? One investor notes that it's a hard rock, so it's very expensive to extract.
So gallium at this point in time, we are exploring different ways of being able to extract it. And yes, it's one of those challenges in terms of how you can extract, gallium. But it doesn't mean that it's not doable because China is doing it, right? So this is where we are actually doing some parallel work, investigating that part, because I think it can contribute significantly to the gallium deficit in the world. We can be an alternative to the gallium. So that's work that is ongoing, and we'll be able to update as we progress on the gallium optimization or metallurgical work.
Okay, thank you, Patience. Um, just a question here. Who are the potential buyers for the REE products from Axel?
So I can't name a specific company, but that's another parallel work that's happening. We are not waiting to engage potential OEMs or off-takers. We're not waiting for that. Potential buyers who wants rare earth, especially the MREC, right? Because that is like your intermediate product before you get your final product. I mean, there's no one who actually does the midstream and downstream except currently China, and there's few that are actually upcoming. However, you're looking at those who use the rare earth, be it's electric vehicles, the manufacturers of electric vehicles, those who are using magnets for the energy transition, those who are using for wind turbines, every single company that produces, that needs magnets can be a potential strategic partner. Anyone that needs magnets for their work, be it its electric vehicle, be it its industrial production, be it its data centers, anyone who is producing that. I can name the countries that are producing all these electronic gadgets from Japan, including China, including Europe. Europe does need the magnets. There's a huge supply deficit. The USA, right? So all these countries that are producing all these electric vehicles, they do need that. So there's a wide range of potential off-takers, a wide range. And I must say, well, we're landscaping that. We are looking at all those different potential off-takers. We're not waiting until we have the product. We're already starting to work. Who may potentially become our strategic partner? Who may potentially become our off-taker in this regard?
Excellent, thank you. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask patients a question, please do so via the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Patients, so for investors that might be new to the company, what's the one thing that you think the market's underappreciating about the company?
I think at this point in time, the markets, I think, is not appreciating the competitive advantage that the in-situ recovery can potentially create significant value for the company. They are underestimating the value that's created by an in-situ recovery mining method. I'll give an example. There are companies that have already published their bankable feasibility studies. 1 billion is essentially their NPV. You look at the IRR, that has never been happening before. And I believe that as we de-risk the project, we will be able to get that value. And I think investors are now looking, they are seeing that. They are seeing that in-situ recovery is the way to go. This is a low cost quartile, low capex, environmentally friendly way of mining. And I believe after today, they should be able to look at AXL differently.
Excellent, thank you. And just to finish off on, so what are the key catalysts that investors should look for over the next 6 to 12 months, as a reminder?
So again, as I mentioned, the next 6 to 12 months, we are working first of all from our current resources, which is currently inferred. We are moving into indicated. We should be able to communicate when we will have that. The second part is we are continuing with our column testing to ensure we optimize that process. By the time we get into the field trials, which is happening very soon, they should be watching out for the field trials that we are going to be working on. And then the last part is obviously the scoping study. So everything is just going to come together. Yeah, so that's what they should be watching for.
All right, excellent, thank you. Actually, there's one more question. Can you please share some further insights into the board and management team? What experience and skills do they bring to the table to help Axel achieve its goals?
So our bodies, we have got diverse skills that we actually need. At this point in time where we are de-risking the project from a metallurgical point of view, and a technical point of view, we have Ian Reid. Ian Reid, he's got more than 40 years experience. And remember, the geotechnical stuff, we will actually need to be able to challenge the hydrological work that's going to be done because that is the biggest part. Think about it as a shaft. Hydrogeology, that's essentially your mine shaft, literally, because this is a new way of mining, right? And we've got Ian Reid. He has experience. It's similar in the oil industry. You do hydrogeological work, we have the relevant experience. You talk about the capital markets. We will be negotiating with off-takers. We've got Paul Dixon, our chairman. We've got Aidan, who has worked particularly in the Western world, discussing all those off-take agreements. We will need that experience. When you talk about the founder, he has been with the company, and thank God, he has been with the company for so many years. He understands, like a miner, he understands in situ, like an in situ expert, and he understands the capital markets. And then, of course, when you bring everything together, the board is fantastic. It brings the relevant skills that we need as we transition from exploration developer to producer.
Excellent. Thank you, Patience. We've got another question. The product from the mine is a concentrate. The process to extract the individual rare earth elements is capital and power intensive, and China has a monopoly on the patents for the processes. How will you find a way to make the offtake agreements work?
Oscar, do you mind just repeating again?
Okay. The product from the mine is a concentrate. The process to extract the individual rare earth elements is capital and power intensive, and China has a monopoly on the patents for the processes. How will you find a way to make the offtake agreements work?
Right. So we are working on a strategy in terms of the options. So when you get your in situ, right, your pregnant liquor solution, the next step is obviously to create a product. So you can either create an oxide, you can create a carbonate, which is the MREC, right? Or you can create individual products. At this point in time, I cannot say that we will be able to do individual products as rightfully said, because it's capital intensive. You need a lot of technology. You need a lot of know-how of how you can actually separate individually. In terms of negotiating with off-takers, I think there is information out there in terms of what is payable from an MREC point of view. What is payable? So we will do some study, we will do some benchmark, we will do our own intel to understand what is payable from an MREC point of view, because that is the current first product that is a low-hanging fruit for us before we can start talking about separating individual magnets. So that is work that is ongoing. We should be able to get that, just like any other commodity. You do your work, be it is copper, be it is PGMs, there is information out there on what is payable per metal, what are the penalties per impurity if you do have any impurities. The information is out there.
All right, thank you, Patience. We might start wrapping up now. So, Patience, thank you very much for your time presenting to all the investors today. It's been great to have you present, and look forward to your progress over the next few months and years. Everyone, thank you for joining us this morning. If there are any further questions for Patience, please contact either myself or Patience. The details are at the end of each ASX announcement, and everyone have a good day. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gabby. Thank you, listeners. Thank you. Bye.